California began commercially growing rice in 1912. About 550,000 acres of rice is grown each year in the state, with 95% of it being grown in the Sacramento Valley. The rest is grown in northern San Joaquin Valley. California rice production yields may exceed 10,000 pounds per acre, which is 20% above the U.S. average. Over 90% of the rice acreage in California is planted to medium grain varieties, with limited areas being planted to short and long grain varieties. 4 regions produced almost the entire U.S. rice crop: the Arkansas Grand Prairie, the Mississippi Delta, which includes parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, and Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, made up of Texas and southwest Louisiana, and the Sacramento Valley. Each of these regions generally specialize in a specific type of rice, which in the United States is referred to by the length of the grain: long, medium, and short. U.S. long grain varieties typically cook dry and separate, while U.S. medium and short grain varieties are typically moist and sticky. In general, long grain production accounts for more than 70% of the U.S. rice production. Medium grain production makes up about 26%, and the short grain the remainder. Most of the long grain rice is produced in the South, and the majority of the medium grain, about 70%, comes from California. Short grain rice is almost exclusively grown in California. I live in Glenn County, right in the middle of the Sacramento Valley, about 90 miles north of Sacramento. This video showcases the 2020 rice season. Rice season begins in the spring. Once the fields have dried, farmers can begin to prepare the fields for planting. Rice grows in flooded fields called checks. Water moves from one check to the next, relying on gravity. Making sure the water isn't too deep at one end and too shallow at the other end means the ground must be close to level with just a slight slope. The water level is regulated using boards inserted into drain boxes. Water flows from one check to the next, and so on. To make sure the water flows properly, checks are first leveled. Soil is moved from high areas and spread out in low areas to create a constant flow throughout the check. Lasers are a very useful tool during this procedure. Once the checks are leveled, they shouldn't need to be done again. The soil in some checks is hard and compacted, so it must be broken up before planting. Proper cultivation of soil can help seeds germinate better in a suitable seed bed, promote good root growth, and allows the soil to hold moisture better. During cultivation is also the best time to add chemical or organic fertilizers. This part of California is perfectly suited for rice because the soil has a high percentage of clay, which helps hold the water like a bathtub. Unfortunately, clay soil can be very hard and compacted. The moldboard plow or disc plow can dig deeply into the soil. These machines are generally used on previously untouched soil or ground that hasn't been farmed for a while. Before planting, the soil must be broken down into a much finer texture using secondary cultivators such as rotary hoes, power harrow, offset discs, chisels, tine cultivators. The final step is creating small furrows where the seeds will settle after being applied by air. Soil must contain nitrogen for proper plant growth. Flooding rice fields leaches nitrogen out of the soil, and it must be replaced. Before planting, fertilizer is applied to the fields. The most common method is injecting aqua ammonia into the soil. Ammonia is high in nitrogen. Organic farmers will use natural fertilizers, such as manure or fish emulsion. Organic fertilizer is usually applied before the soil is cultivated, allowing it to be worked into the soil. Planting rice can be accomplished by 3 different methods. Before machines, rice was planted by inserting seedlings in the flooded fields by hand. This method is extremely inefficient and is still used today in third world countries. Mechanical planting is done using a machine known as a drill that inserts seeds into narrow rows just under the surface of the soil before the check is flooded. The most common method is aerial planting. Seeds are loaded into aircraft and dispersed over flooded fields. The seeds have been prepared ahead of time by soaking them in water. This prevents them from floating when they land in the water. The seeds will settle into the furrows where they will germinate and take root. Planting takes place early to mid-May. Side note, aerial planting of rice originated in Willows, where I live. Fighting fires by air also originated here using the same type of airplanes. Water for irrigation comes from several sources. In my area, it comes from the Sacramento River. It is pumped into a large canal that runs 111 miles southwest through the valley, delivering water to all types of farms along the way. Water is fed into the checks by way of steel gate valves and lateral ditches. Water level in the checks is kept at about 5 inches deep. Consistent water depth has been shown to improve the rice plant's ability to compete against weeds for nutrients and sunlight, reducing the need for herbicides. The water is held in the checks until the rice matures. During the first 30 to 40 days, if needed, the crop is treated to control weeds and pests. Since the rice is considered a grass, broadleaf herbicides can be used without damaging the plant. If necessary, farmers may also treat the fields for the rice water weevil and other insects. The weather in Northern California is perfect for growing rice. Average temperatures run in the mid to upper 90s throughout the summer. Sunny skies are the norm. During this time, rice grows quickly and will reach a height of 3 feet. By early August, the grain will start to appear on top of the plants, known as heading out. By September, the grain has matured and is ready to harvest. Before harvesting, the fields must be first drained of all the water. Harvesters don't float. The harvest starts in September and extends into October. Once the fields are dry enough to accept equipment, harvest can begin as soon as the moisture content of the grain is down to a maximum of 20 to 25%. Cutting starts in the mornings as soon as the dew has evaporated from the rice. A harvester will drive into a check and cut one path around the perimeter of the check. Now there is room for the bank-out wagon to enter and unload the harvester. A bank-out is a tractor that either pulls or carries a hopper that can pull up next to the harvester, receive the grain, and transfer it to trailers parked near the fields. Harvesters can continue cutting while unloading at the same time. They will continue all day until they run out of light or the dew starts to return in the evening. Full trailers are pulled to rice dryers, where they are unloaded. The rice is put into silos where the moisture level will be dropped to about 12% to minimize any quality deterioration. The rice is dried by circulating large volumes of air through the silos. Once the rice is dry, it can be sold as is or taken to a mill. At the mill, the hull is first removed, leaving brown rice. White rice is achieved by removing the bran layer that is between the hull and the inner rice kernel. The rice hulls can be used for many things, including construction materials, energy production, animal feed, soil conditioner, and scores of other uses. The bran is a good source of gluten-free protein, B vitamins, vitamin E, essential fatty acids, and dietary fiber. Once the rice has been harvested, it's time to concentrate on what is left behind in the fields. The straw and the remainder of the plant is high in silica, making it difficult to decompose. In the past, most of the fields were burned to control disease and pest problems that can carry over between crops. Changes in pollution laws have drastically reduced the amount of acreage that can be burned each year. Necessity has spawned innovation. In the past, the burnt stubble would be left to sit in the fields until spring plowing. Now many farmers bale the straw, which has several uses. The straw that is removed from the fields is now being used for many products. Many of the long, round, worm-like tubes you see on the ground at construction sites are made from rice straw. Rice straw is being used on hillsides to aid in erosion control after fires. A new factory called CalPlant One has recently been built near Willows, California. There, the straw will be used to make MDF. MDF is a medium-density fiberboard used to make cabinets and speaker boxes. MDF is usually made from wood. To aid in decomposition, farmers started flooding the fields. If the fields weren't burnt, the large amount of straw and stubble left behind made it hard to decompose, creating issues for the next crop. The remainder of the stubble can also be mowed as low as possible before flooding. Once flooded, some fields are rolled. Tractors with custom-built, wide steel wheels drive through the fields, smashing the stubble into the mud. One of the other benefits of flooding the fields during decomposition is wildlife habitat. The Sacramento Valley is a major flyway for seasonal waterfowl. Millions of ducks and geese use this area for their winter homes. The flooded fields offer perfect habitat for feeding and resting. Hunting is also a big business. Many farmers install duck blinds around their fields and rent them out to hunters.